Hey guys, Brooklyn here. Now my next book talk is on The Sixth Wife by Suzzannah Dunn. It's a historical fiction novel and it follows the life of Catherine Parr, well, specifically her life after her second husband, Henry VIII, died. In fact, what makes this book interesting though is the fact that it's not narrated by Catherine Parr. It's actually narrated by Catherine the Duchess of Suffolk, who is the widowed wife of Charles Brandon, who of course was Henry VIII's best friend. Now this book, absolutely, if you watch my previous video, my wrap up, I explain how frustrated this book made me. I gave it 2 stars, and it's actually the worst book that I read this year. And I'm really annoyed that it is, because I enjoyed this book. I thought I'd enjoy this book because I really loved the cover and the description sounded like it would be amazing. And in fact, even when I started reading it, I thought, because that first opening chapter is so full of emotion, because it starts with its ending, if that makes sense. So it starts with the funeral of Catherine Parr, and we see that through Catherine, the Duchess of Suffolk's eyes, and she's all emotional and devastated because her best friend is dead. But from that first quarter in, this book just got so frustrating, and I will tell you why. Because even within that first chapter, there is so much bitterness towards Thomas Seymour, who was Catherine Parr's third husband. They were longtime lovers, and in fact, I think Catherine Parr would have married him were it not for Henry VIII, because of course when the king, has his eye on a woman, there's nothing anyone, let alone she, can do about that. So Catherine Parr married the king. Of course, part of that was to her own favour, because at the time, she wasn't well off or anything, but nonetheless, long story short, after Henry VIII dies, Thomas Seymour and Catherine Parr are able to marry. And from the first point, from Catherine, Duchess of Suffolk's eyes, we're a bit shady and we're a bit wary of Thomas. We think, okay, does he really love Catherine? What were his intentions and when he married her? What's your deal, was what I was wondering, and truthfully, I still don't know. Because of how this was written, I was very suspicious, and I was thinking along the same lines as Catherine, Duchess of Suffolk. I don't think Thomas's intentions were good. I'm not entirely sure if he loved Catherine, perhaps in his own way, I don't know. I do definitely think he lusted after Catherine's stepdaughter, Elizabeth, of course, who would be Elizabeth I. And I'm not entirely sure if that was mutual or not. This book certainly paints it out to be, and it's definitely something I'd like to investigate more. With this, what annoyed me and what made me really want to DNF this book was and this will be spoilery, so turn away if you don't want to hear spoilers, but from Catherine, Duchess of Suffolk's immense sort of suspicion and bitterness, because Catherine, Duchess of Suffolk, was very devastated because her husband died, and she loved him, he loved her. And perhaps she was, slightly envious of Catherine Parr finally finding what she thought was happiness, and she was carrying a child. The child, by the way, was the cause of Catherine Parr's death. She died from complications of childbirth, and then the child shortly died after. But I digress, because Catherine Brandon in this book was so frustrating, and I hated it because so from all of Catherine Brandon's being suspicious of Thomas Seymour, for all of that, and then suddenly deciding that she's absolutely in love with him, and then having an affair, and in fact, and wondering if Thomas is in love with the niece, and then thinking, saying to Thomas, don't upset Catherine Parr, and then in fact being half the cause of what would upset her. It is just so stupid. Like, it wasn't even well thought out, I don't think. So this book, honestly, could have been so much better if that whole affair was cut out. It made no sense, you know? I mean, obviously there's lots of affairs in Tudor court and, like, in anything, and it's ridiculous because it's so dramatic and stupid. But yes, it was so annoying, honestly. And that just literally carried the rest of the novel, and that is really what ruined it for me. But there you go. That's that. I definitely hope to read more books on Catherine Parr, whether it's fictional or non-fiction. And I guess to recount what really happened to Thomas Seymour, he depends what way you look at it. He might have got what he deserved because he was executed for treason. So I say a big fat ha to that. And yeah, that will conclude my book talk on The Sixth Wife. All in all, a very not very good thought out book, very scattered and ridiculous, and didn't make a lot of sense in the characters' actions, but the idea was there, and it could have been better anyway. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon. Happy reading.